Ah, reading slumps. The bookish equivalent of staring into your fridge and finding only expired condiments. They're frustrating, dramatic, and sometimes they make you wonder if you'll ever finish a book again. But here's the thing. Slumps aren't the end of your reading journey. They're just a speed bump. Let's unravel the mystery of reading slumps and get you back on track. And today we're diving deep into the science of why reading slumps happen, and more importantly, how to crush them. We'll look at what the research tells us about decision fatigue, attention restoration, and how our brains work when it comes to focus. And because I know you're here for it, some book recommendations that might just break the slump cycle. So grab your favorite mug, get comfortable, and stick around. We're about to get into it. I'm Nick. This is Dr. Cranky Pants Reads. And if you've ever felt personally victimized by your TBR pile, you're in the right place. But let's get you out of my fridge. Let's face it, reading slumps can feel like being stuck in quicksand. You know the books are there, you want to read them, but something just doesn't click. But why is that? Let's dig into the research. First, decision fatigue plays a big role. Studies in cognitive psychology show that we make up to 35,000 decisions per day. And guess what? Our brains can only handle so much. When it's time to pick a book, your brain might just throw up its hands and say, "Not today." This is called choice overload. Too many options lead to avoidance. The paradox of choice is real, and sometimes your TBR pile is too big for its own good. And then there's our attention span. Between phones, streaming, and that endless scroll, we've conditioned ourselves to jump from one thing to the next. Research suggests that sustained attention is declining due to constant media multitasking. So when you finally sit down with a book, it can feel sluggish. Your brain has gotten used to rapid shifts, and adjusting to deep reading can feel like switching from a sprint to a slow jog. Here's another surprising factor: mindfulness versus flow. Let's break that down. Mindfulness is all about being present in the moment, observing your thoughts and your feelings. Flow, on the other hand, is about total immersion, losing track of time because you're so deeply engaged. The problem? These two can clash when it comes to reading. If you're too mindful, constantly thinking, "Am I enjoying this book? Is this character arc working for me?" Bam! You've been snapped out of the flow state. And without flow, reading can start to feel like homework instead of an escape. Striking the right balance here is key, and we'll get into how to do that in just a bit. And let's talk about boredom tolerance. Thanks to instant gratification from streaming and social media, our patience for slower paced activities is shot. Books require us to sit with them, to give them time to build. But research on attention restoration suggests that our brains need time away from the constant stimulation to regain focus. So if a book feels slow, it might not be the book. It might just be you detoxing from overstimulation. If this all sounds familiar, don't worry, you're not broken. You're just human. Or, as I like to say, a book dragon who's temporarily misplaced their fire. So now that we know the culprits, let's figure out how to light that spark again and get you back to devouring books like the fire-breathing book dragon you are. Now, I wish I could tell you that there is a foolproof solution to slumps, but the truth is, results may vary. What works for one reader might not work for another, but based on research, these steps can help nudge your brain back into reading mode. First, embrace boredom. I know it sounds counterproductive, but research on self-regulation and literacy engagement suggests that developing patience for slower tasks can actually make you a stronger reader. If you've been bouncing between apps and struggling to focus, it might be time for a little digital detox. Give your brain a chance to settle before diving back into a book. Second, set some kill criteria. Annie Duke's Quit suggests setting some conditions for when to walk away from a project, and honestly, we should all be using this for books. Here's the deal. Not every book is going to work for you at every time. Instead of forcing yourself through something that feels like a slog, set 2 categories. DNF, done forever, and not right now. Might try again later. Guilt-free quitting is the best kind of quitting. Third, change your environment. Studies on attention restoration suggest that switching locations can reset your ability to focus. Ever notice how reading in a coffee shop makes you feel super intellectual? That's because a new setting refreshes your cognitive load, essentially clearing out your buffer, and makes focus easier. Try moving to a different spot, adjusting your lighting, or even shifting to a different chair. Small change, big impact. And finally, make a TBR sampler. Decision fatigue is real, and having too many choices can make it impossible to pick. So instead of staring at your full shelf in existential crisis, pick 5 books that intrigue you. A smaller selection reduces decision fatigue and makes it feel like a fun experiment rather than a commitment. Think of it like a book tasting menu. All right, we've tackled the why and the how. Now let's talk about the what. If you need a book that's going to shake you out of your slump, I've got you. Each of these books serves a different kind of slump-busting purpose. So let's do this like a speed dating round for your next favorite read. Up first, In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Now, hear me out. True crime might not be your usual go-to, but this book is a masterpiece for a reason. It follows the chilling story of a small Kansas family brutally murdered in their home, and Capote weaves the facts into a narrative so gripping it reads like fiction. If you need a book that will shock you back into reading, this is it. Next, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, a book I mentioned in my Parks and Rec tag. Eleanor is a character like no other. Awkward, blunt, and hilariously out of touch with modern social norms. But as the layers of her lonely life unfold, you'll find yourself rooting for her, laughing with her, and maybe even tearing up. Need a feel-good, laugh and cry kind of book? This one is going to sneak up on you and hug you when you least expect it. Now let's go a little deeper with Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rifka Brunt. It's a poignant story of a teenage girl grieving the loss of her beloved uncle to AIDS. As she forms an unlikely friendship with his secret boyfriend, family secrets unravel and emotions run high. It's beautifully written, gut-wrenching, and exactly the kind of book that will remind you why you fell in love with reading in the first place. Feeling adventurous? Try The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. This darkly comedic novel follows Geeta, a woman in a small Indian village who finds herself caught up in a hilarious yet dangerous reputation as a bandit queen who got away with killing her husband, a reputation that brings other village women to seek her counsel in regards to their own husbands. The book mixes humor, feminism, and action with a sharp critique of societal expectations. If you want something wildly entertaining with bite, this is the one. And finally, let's talk again about Random Family by Adrienne Nicole LeBlanc. I keep mentioning this book on this channel and will continue until you read it, so just give in. It is a beautiful nonfiction book that reads like a novel. It chronicles the lives of 2 women navigating the harsh realities of poverty, love, and family in the Bronx. It's raw, it is intimate, and utterly compelling. You will get so wrapped up in her stories, you'll forget you're reading nonfiction. If you need a book that grabs you by the shirt collar and doesn't let go, pick this one up. So we're ending where we began, in my fridge. Don't worry, I cleaned it out. So there you have it, a deep dive into why slumps happen, how to break the cycle, and 5 books that might just bring you back to life. Slumps happen to everyone, so be kind to yourself. Take it 1 page at a time, and before you know it, you'll be back to devouring books like the book dragon you are. I'll be back with a long-form video on Tuesday. I'll be doing the end of year tag. I know, it's late. But does time even exist anymore? And hopefully I don't let Priscilla at Evening Reader down. I appreciate you, and I hope life is good. I'll see you in the next one.